evening, everybody. I will call to order the December 10th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, to get started, I see a couple people missing. Can I make any appointments on that side? I don't think so. I can make an appointment for Mr. Rugg. I'll appoint Mr. DeFrancesco in Mr. Rugg's place.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And from there, we don't have any minutes right now. Do we have any regional impact determinations?
None this evening, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. And any discussion with town staff?
Nope, all set.
Even better. All right. Moving on here, we're going to go to old business. We have a public hearing on the rezoning of 2 Litchfield Road, map 12, lot 68, from C3 in Historic District Overlay to AR1. This was continued from November 5th, 2025. Let me see here. All right, there's one. All right, Kelly, I'll let you start.
Sure. So as I indicated at the prior meeting where this was discussed, the council essentially provided some direction back in September that the planning board should review and provide a recommendation with respect to rezoning the 2 Litchfield property. It's currently zoned commercial 3 with the historic overlay district, and the recommendation was to rezone it to AR1, agricultural residential. I have the location and the zoning overlay up on the screen, so you can clearly see it's surrounded by AR1 zoning. The red spot is the property location, indicating it's C3, and the historic overlay is the hashed area. So again, procedurally, this board is providing a recommendation to the council, and the council goes through their process as to whether or not to formally rezone the property.
Is it a consensus or an actual vote?
It's a recommendation.
It's a motion that you're recommending one way or the
Yeah,
other.
it's a motion of a recommendation to zone or rezone.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Kelly, now I know this was, I watched the other meeting that I missed, and I know that the house itself used to be historic, but it can you explain it to me one more time? Like, it lost its historic thing, or someone applied to
So-
lose the historic piece of it?
As you'll see in the memo I provided,
All right.
that's okay. It's better that everyone can hear it watching and in the room. The first motion that the council made at their September meeting was to remove the historic preservation easement. So that is no longer. However, the historic overlay, which is a zoning matter, remains unless the vote is done to remove that overlay district and the C3 zone and rezone it to AR1. So in terms of its historic status, the preservation easement is entirely separate from whether or not the property remains in the historic overlay district. In our zoning ordinance, it's listed as a historic property by way of that district. So if the town council ultimately rezones the property to AR1, they would be both lifting the C3 zone and the overlay, historic overlay district, which would remove it from that.
So currently, right now, we have a non-historic home on a historic property, basically.
Zone.
Well, so technically it's zoned right now until it's rezoned as part of the historic overlay district.
Right.
But it's-
the
but it's the-
land is, but the house is not, correct? They removed the historic piece
Yes,
from
they
the home.
removed the easement
This is now the land.
with the, yes.
Okay. Just
And,
wanted to make
and that's the only historic property contiguous to that, right? Like there's no other.
Right, so our historic district is not a contiguous area.
Right, right.
Like, it's not, for example, like downtown Portsmouth where you have
Right.
a
Yeah, you
contiguous
have a
area.
whole-
Right.
I'm just
Aren't there
saying
five
for
separate
the
ones?
people that are listening, like
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is not like the town common where it's surrounded by.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Correct.
She said they're fives.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So if nothing else, this has been a concept that's been going on for the last couple of years to try and clean up some of the spot zoning that was done in the past, that we're trying to get rid of all the spot zones, and this is, if for no other reason, this is another spot zone. It's one property in the middle of AR1, mostly AR1, and so, for no other reason, it might be a good idea to get rid of this spot zone.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board before we go to the public?
I just want to say something. I know the town took away the historic status, but it is a historical building. It goes way back 1800s, and it's got quite the history. So they may say that some things were changed in it, but still, in my mind, it's still a historic building. Because I have a perspective of being in the house back in, before all this came about. I was a Girl Scout leader, and Ms. DiCarlo was also, so I was in the house back then when it was considered a home. And basically, the only thing I saw changed over the years was they took out the stove when it became a commercial entity. The rest of the house is the same, building, and so is the barn. Although over the years, the Pauls improved the barn, and before that, it wasn't even painted, and it was, it looked its age, so they did some work on it. I don't want to get going on to this, but I just have to get this out, that I really consider it a historic building, because I know what it was before, and I know what it is now, because I was, 7 years ago, when Deb was leaving it. It was, the only things that were changed were like the windows, because they wanted to put more energy efficient ones, but they're appropriate also for that type of building. They may not be historic, old ones, but they serve the purpose. And just like if we put something on in the Reverend Morrison's meeting house, we could have that designated as a historic structure as long as the town decides to do that. But it doesn't look like that's what's, Anyways, I just want to say some of us still consider it a historic building because we know it was before and what it is now. And because it creaks and the floors are uneven doesn't mean it's falling apart. And anyways, I just wanted to say that, and you can vote however you want.
So just to be clear,
Yeah,
I think, and I'm not
Go ahead.
disagreeing with anything you're saying.
yeah.
I agree with most of what you're saying, but unfortunately, I think, Mr. Chair, that is not before us this
I know.
evening. Is that
It's
correct?
not.
Correct.
So that's a town council
Right.
issue, I think, and we're not deciding
We're
anything
looking
about that.
strictly at the zoning.
All we're doing is changing the land.
Recommending.
Recommending to the town council whether we think the land should be rezoned back to what it was, which was AR1, before it was changed to AR3. And that's really all that we're doing tonight.
Correct.
I have a question,
Yeah.
and in the 1800s, was it just a home, or did someone famous live there? I'm just trying to understand. So are you saying that, I know this is not a topic, but it is the land, and once you do it the land, you can do whatever you want. So I just want to make sure I understand. Was it just someone's home, or was there any historic person that lived there?
There were-
So is the house historic because it's old, or is the house historic
I-
because somebody like General something or whatever lived there?
It could have been a tavern, I'm not sure. Or it could have been on the, never mind.
But we're not sure,
I
right?
won't, I
Okay.
won't say because I'm not 100% sure. But it still is a fine, I consider the condition of it good for that age of a building. I mean, if you go in the attic, you'll see the two roofs intersects with the actual shingle shake roofs for the old ones. And the wide pine floors, they're about this wide on the second floor rooms. They're incredible. So it's
structure
still
is
all
historic.
there.
I do want to reel us back in a
Sorry,
little
sorry.
bit,
Okay,
guys. Little
I'm
bit.
done now,
Yes, sir.
and I just want to say that I objected to the not being historic, because it's in our minds.
I just want to say, as somebody who owns a house from the 1800s as well in this town,
Is yours historic?
no, that's what I'm about to say, is that, so I can empathize with the property owner in that I don't necessarily want somebody telling me what I can and can't do with my property as well, right? So I try to maintain my house as best as I can to the historic, but I would not want the town coming in and saying, you can't do this, or, you know, without having an Amherst style or Portsmouth style historic situation, I would not, I can empathize with the property owner of trying to take it back to the original zoning, so.
But
I
that
think we should probably,
designation was supposed to be going on with the
going-
deed.
I would like to,
So-
I would like to move on to the public at this time. I will open up public comment. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Laura Gandy. I'm an attorney with Divine Millimet, representing the property owner, CC Properties. Here with me is Richard Flyer. He is one of the managing partners of CC Properties LLC. We were here before you last time. There was an issue with the proper notice requirements for the hearing. It was continued. I'm assuming that it was properly noticed. I didn't check or go into that, but I'm going to make that assumption, but still reserve our rights if it was not properly noticed to have that remain. As the board may be aware, last time that I was in front of you, we got into a little bit of the background, but I want to reiterate some of that background. Back in 2006, the property owners at that time, the DeCarols, wanted to sell the property, but they were looking to maximize what they could get from the property, so there was discussion as to how that was all gonna play out. There was some back and forth with the town councils, several hearings, several discussions whereby the town agreed to acquiesce to some of the property owners' concerns by rezoning the property to C3, and then by putting the historic overlay district on it and the historic preservation easement deed. And it almost appeared to be like some type of real estate deal between the town and the property owner at that time. After that was done, the property continued to obviously be in existence, and then it was purchased by folks who run the newspaper, and there was actually a site plan in 2009 that was approved by this board, not you folks, maybe some of you, that was approved that allowed for professional office spaces with like 17 parking spots. Your master plan was developed in 2013. That came and went with no concern about this property being zoned C3. And in fact, if you go up further on the map, you'll see that Dunkin' Donuts is zoned C4. And to my knowledge, there's been no discussion about rezoning that property, nor do I think there should be. We find this situation to be very unique. This issue has been brought in conjunction with our request to remove the historic preservation easement deed. So since my involvement, I've talked to the town and the town attorneys about our position that that historic preservation easement deed was improper when it was enacted in 2006. This property was not part of any historical register. It wasn't listed as being historical anywhere. There was no official documentation that this property was historical. If you read the meeting minutes back in 2006, you would find that to be very interesting how that dialogue occurred. So there was nothing there at that point in time to say that this property was historical at the time. Again, it was part of this negotiation between the town council and the property owners at that time. We did reach out to the New Hampshire Charitable Trust, and we did get opinion from them in reference to the historic preservation easement deed. That's part of the Attorney General's office. They did agree with our position that the historic preservation easement deed lacked any charitable intent. They didn't want to get involved. They backed off and said, yep, we see that was more of a negotiation between the town and a private property owner. Doesn't meet any of the requirements that we want to have or get into when it comes to a charitable trust or a historic preservation easement deed, because that's for the public trust. So when you have a historic preservation easement deed, there's usually a benefit to the public, in this case, the town of Londonderry and its residents. That wasn't there. AG said, we want nothing to do with it. I presented that opinion letter to the town. Then the town agreed that they would remove, the town council agreed that they would remove that historic preservation easement deed. So we were asked to submit our request to have that removed. We appeared, I think, in September to have a hearing on our request to have that historic preservation easement deed removed. We went there, my understanding that it was going to be removed at the 11th or probably 12th hour. During that town council meeting, we were informed that it's going to be removed, but there's going to be a subsequent motion to rezone the property to AR1. No discussion with me prior in time to that, almost like, well, we'll give you this, but we want this. And now this is unique because typically, as this board knows, the town council doesn't just rezone a property over the property owner's objection in the manner in which it did here. So we got the historic preservation easement deed removed, and that has been recorded. But then the town council moved forward and said, we want the town manager to do whatever, file whatever paperwork is necessary to have the property rezoned back to AR1. And what's interesting, during that September meeting, there was no discussion by the town council getting into the reasons why this property should be rezoned back to AR1. And if you remember last time I was here, I had a concern with that regarding due process and my client's ability to understand what the reasons were for the town council to engage in this type of behavior. I don't know that answer. Typically, when you have a rezoning application by a property owner that's submitted, it gives you the reasons why it's to be rezoned, and then you move forward. Here, it's our opinion that the town council should have drafted a town council ordinance that says, whereas we believe, and this board's familiar with that, why it should be rezoned. I don't have it. So we're sitting here before you with no clear understanding from the town council as to why they're seeking to rezone this property. So the town council did have a public hearing, well, a first read back in, maybe that was in November, where they waived the first reading of this town council ordinance. I don't know where this ordinance is because we don't have it. We haven't seen it. I still am sitting here before you with no information from the town council in writing that we can effectively say to you, we disagree with their reasonings. So when you get a waiver request, the applicant fills out the waiver request form, says, here's the criteria, this is why we're seeking a waiver, and then you evaluate your deliberations are based on those criteria. Here, you have a rezoning request, nothing from the town council saying why they want to rezone it. I can guess, I can speculate, I can talk about zoning, but that doesn't cut it in our opinion. We have nothing in front of us from the town council, even though there was a first read that was waived. I don't know what they waived because I haven't seen any town council ordinance to know what was waived. We're in front of you again, expressing those same concerns with no knowledge as to what the town council's reasoning is in writing for my client to proactively protect his property rights. What you do have in front of you is a staff memo that talks about, and the only thing in here, it says rezoning request. Now, this isn't by the town council. I have nothing from the town council. And again, this is a private property owner's rights that are at stake here. It says, at the direction of the town council to rezone the parcel to AR1 to better align with surrounding land use and zoning patterns. The proposed use would eliminate zoning discontinuity and strengthen land use compatibility. This was written by town staff, not by the town council. Is that town staff opinion? Is that the town council's opinion? I have no idea. So that in and of itself is very problematic for us. We don't know we're here before you with that. So based on what I just put forward, I'm going to go through what I just based on that language in the staff memo. Again, it's not sufficient, in my opinion, to provide us with due process to effectively respond to this rezoning request. And I'll just go through what was put in there to kind of give some flavor to what we think may or may not be why the town wants to take away my client's property rights. So I'll go back to the fact that when this property was rezoned, we went through that unique situation that occurred back in 2006. 2009, there was a site plan that was approved by the town. If the town thought it was spot zoning in 2009, that would have been a perfect opportunity to say, no, we're not going to approve a site plan and let you put 17 parking spaces in there, but they didn't do that. The board approved the 2009 site plan, and I have a copy of that site plan for you folks. And I just have some other stuff in there that talks about the notice requirements, just to put that on the record.
Thank you.
So on the last page, I'm just gonna draw your attention to the last page, is a approved, planning board approved site plan back in 2009 to allow the conversion of an existing building, professional office space, to allow the conversion to a professional office space. You can see there's 17 parking spaces. It's all changed. It was approved by the planning board back in 2009. At this point in time, if the town believed it was spot zoning and contrary to what it wants, it didn't act in 2009. In fact, it promoted this C3 use. After that, the town engaged in its master plan. At that point in time, there's no mention at all in the town's master plan that this property is out of line or incompatible or anything to designate this as an action item that should be addressed in the master plan. That didn't happen. And then it just continued. It has been used for other commercial uses. It actually was the home for the Litchfield Democrats, where there was some fundraising activities and different events that occurred just recently. At that point in time, again, the town did not object to that type of commercial use. It was only when we asked for the historic preservation easement deed to be removed did a subsequent motion come into play to take away the C3 uses that my client bought the property with, has enjoyed, and was under the impression that he could continue to enjoy that. And now the town is trying to strip away those property rights. And then as part of the staff memo, it talks about compatibility and land use. As this board is very familiar with, Mammoth Road is a diverse array of land uses. You have, for example, you have the Route 28 corridor, as this board knows, is a state road with various uses. You have Dunkin' Donuts, that is at the corner of Shasta, that's zoned C4. There's been, in my opinion, no discussion whatsoever at any point in time to have Dunkin' Donuts rezoned back to AR1, and that is surrounded by AR1 uses, very similar to what Two Litchfield Road is. I have not heard any discussion about that, nor do I think there should be a discussion about that. You also have in the similar area, you have Peabody's Funeral Home, you have 3 churches, you have an array of multifamily uses, you have a manufactured housing park, you have the Grange, you have the schools, you have the police station, you have the fire station. You go up a little bit further, you have Triangle Mobile, and then you have right across the street and down a little bit away from Two Litchfield Road, you have the cemetery. You have multiple home occupations. You have Londonderry Family Dentistry. You have Max Apples on this particular corridor, again, amidst AR1, you have Shady Hill, you have an NHDOT patrol shed with commercial vehicles going in and out off of Mammoth Road, you have a daycare, you have at 395, that gentleman who loves to sell his excavation equipment, also on 28. So if you're talking about incompatible land uses and continuous compatibility, it doesn't exist on 20 at all. So the reasons given by staff in this memo, and again, I haven't seen anything from the town council, in our opinion, that doesn't hold any weight, given what you have. And again, I can't stress enough the unique circumstances of why the town is seeking to rezone this property from C3 to AR1 when it's been in existence for close to 20 years, received a site plan approval in 2009. This property owner has exercised its use for commercial uses. Since that time, the master plan has been implemented, all with no thought about changing this until we asked about removing the historic preservation easement, which was done based on the opinion from the Attorney General's office. So there's interesting fact patterns that go into where we're at right now. And if the board is going to make a recommendation, which I believe it will, I would ask that it do a couple of things. One, I would ask that it bifurcate its motions, because we have two zoning districts on the property. We have the C3 and we have the historic overlay. We believe the historic overlay is not appropriate. The town has made findings in its memos and in various correspondence that there is no historical value to the home. When my client purchased the home, there was significant renovations that were done that, in his opinion, would diminish the historical value of that house. So there's nothing there, and again, that house isn't on any type of historical registration. There's no historical designation to that. The Attorney General has weighed in, and the town has also weighed in, giving its opinion that there's no historical value to the home. So we would ask that you bifurcate any motion to remove the historical overlay district to it. And then with the C3 district, we would ask that you did make a recommendation not to approve this zoning change based on the information that we presented.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
John Farrell, 4 Hancock Drive. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I might be the only person in this room who was actually here in 2006 when all this happened. I'm a little confused by everything I just heard, but that's a different story for a different day. If I understand what you're trying to do is you're trying to, the request was to remove the historic easement on the property so that the property could be moved back to AR1? Is that the request?
No.
No.
Do you want me to?
You can go ahead.
There's two separate matters. Both were let me start again. Two separate items.
I didn't read the memo, so I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'd be happy to read it.
That's why I'm here, in case you have questions. The historic preservation easement
Right,
is entirely separate
which I probably wrote.
discussion. So the town council, as you well know, is the only body that had the authority to remove that.
Right,
The rezoning was a separate item that they brought up, made a separate motion on, directing the town manager to follow the appropriate process which is bring the rezoning matter to this board so they can provide a recommendation to the town council. Within that motion, they also indicated that the rezoning should be to the AR1 zoning district.
all right. So let me repeat this back to you just so that I understand it, okay? So my understanding is I understand what you said. What I think the applicant's trying to say is leave my zoning as C3 without the historic piece on it, and then I will operate under C3. Is that what the applicant's saying?
That's my understanding, that they're asking for two separate motions. One being a motion to And again, this is their suggestion to remove the historic overlay district zoning, the hashed area.
Yeah.
And then a second motion that would be recommending that the council does not rezone the property to AR1. So yes, the end result being it remains strictly C3. And they should come up and answer that themselves to confirm, but that's my takeaway.
Okay. So the reason so back a long time ago, the planning board voted 0-7 to rezone this. And then it went to the council and it went back and forth. And long story short is you got what you got, right? But the person who was the applicant, the DeCarlos at the time, wanted to sell the property. They were pretty much willing to agree to anything to put on the property to sell it. And that's how you wound up with this complicated historic overlay district thing. Even at the time, it was questioned multiple times that it was spot zoning. I can't speak for what the town council did. I happen to not agree with what they did at the time. But it was never the intent at the time for it to remain to be a commercial property. It was more of a, office type of situation. With regards to the condition of the property, I actually have pictures from 2008 on my phone of the condition the property was left in. If that needs to be seen, I'll be happy to share them with you. But Mr. Flyer has spent a significant amount of money making the building stand up. It probably would have fallen down if he didn't spend a significant amount of money. So thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it. And
Sorry, can I just clarify something? I think I kept saying applicant. They're not the applicant. They're the property owner. And
sorry about that. That was probably me.
I believe I said applicant, so let's just make that
Yeah.
clear.
Okay. Well, thank you. I was having a hard time understanding.
I have a question for you. So, in your opinion, with your history and as a resident, do you agree with this? What's trying to be done, or do you not agree with this as a resident?
I mean, based on the history, I feel for the owner from the standpoint of that he was put in a difficult situation.
Bamboozled.
That's your words, not mine. And that he has invested a significant amount of money trying to do the right thing. As someone who sat on the planning board for 11 years and sat on that other thing for a long time, I think it's a hard decision because once you open the box for the zoning, you open it to everything. So that's where C3 gets to be a little bit more difficult. Hypothetically, if Mr. Flyer had had a conversation with me at some point, I probably would have said to him, your best path is to go to AR1, and figure out how to get out of this and make yourself a little bit of money. That's if hypothetically, if he would ask me that question. I understand what he's trying to do and trying to maximize his investment since he has put a significant amount of money into it. I just don't know. What we didn't do in 2006 was ask all the questions and look down the path. That's always a mistake.
John, can I ask you, you were on the planning board in 2006?
I joined the planning board in the year 2000
Okay.
and
so
was
you-
on it until March of 2010.
Thanks.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the best I know right now.
Thank you.
But I do understand I do understand what he's trying to do, and I have seen work that he's done, and his work is of quality. So, but I don't know what C3. I just don't remember all the options for C3. So,
John, if I could.
Yep.
You mentioned it was offices. I think the current occupant is using it as offices. C3, Kelly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but restricts it to a very low impact use like offices.
yeah, as I recall, it doesn't give him a lot of options.
Yeah. Right.
But it's
And I would agree with you that if you actually want to sell the property, you should probably go AR1, but.
You know, I mean, it's, I don't know what Mr. Flyer's actual intention is what he wants to do with the property. Based on walking through the property myself, looking at the structure and everything else, while it may be old, I don't know that I would call it historic. And with no disrespect, it's old, but it has modern bathrooms. It has a full-fledged fire alarm system in it.
The town required that, and also that 17
It's not a
spot.
debate, Mr. Chair, it's not a debate.
Mr. D.
So I don't know if any of that helps, but I do understand, I mean, I do understand his argument. But that's up to all of you. I mean, but I don't know, I hope that helps.
Thank you. Anything else from the public?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I did receive an email today from David Ellis. I'd like to read it in as,
Sure.
under public comment.
Sure.
So, this letter is from David Ellis. He lives, I believe, at 1 Wilshire Drive. The statement submitted by David, yes, 1 Wilshire Drive. As a resident of Londonderry who has been involved for several years in attempts to preserve this historic property, and now that the preservation easement has been removed, I fully support reverting the zoning to AR1 as the best way to limit adverse development at this site.
Thank you. All right. Anything else from the public?
Before you close, can the owner come back up so I can ask some questions, or we're not gonna do that? However you wanna do it, I need some answers.
I'm all right with that. Brief questions, please.
Yeah, just quick ones.
Yep.
Would you mind?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I'll be as quick as I can, but one of the things I'm not good at is quick. So, when, just a point of clarification, when Mr. Flyer bought the property, I don't want to get into overlay. I just want to talk about what I see is before me tonight. There's verbiage here that only talks about reverting it back from C3 back to AR1. My question is, when Mr. Flyer bought the property, how was it zoned? Was it C3 or was it C1?
When Mr. Flyer bought the property, it had two zoning designations. The underlying zoning was.
No, that's not the question.
It was zoned C3 and historic overlay.
It was zoned C3.
Nope, two zoning designations.
But that's not before me. I have no,
He's trying to answer your question.
I understand.
But Tony,
I know that,
can
I know that
ask-
part.
But you're asking me what the property was zoned? The property
it.
was zoned, properties in town have multiple zoning designations.
understand.
So it had two zones on it. So if the property was zoned C3 in historic overlay district.
Thank
Two
you.
zoning designations.
Thank you. I'm all set. Thank you. That was my question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Not a problem. All right.
All right.
I've been on, granted, I haven't been on this board as long as a lot of
You
people.
folks are
but-
good. Yeah, you folks are good.
Yeah,
Are we-
exactly, yeah.
We're gonna
Did
close
you
the
close
public hearing?
public comment or
I
not?
I'm
have
sorry.
it.
I'm
I
sorry.
have
I'm
it.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So. All right. Anybody else from the public? I will close public comment. Now you are good.
Thank you. I've been on this board for a little while, and I don't think I've ever seen a situation where we're talking about rezoning something against the wishes of the property owner. Like, I don't, typically it's the property owner who wants to rezone something. I've never seen a situation where the property owner comes up and says, no, I want to keep it the way it is, and the town is saying the other way. It seems to me like I was actually surprised by what you were saying, because again, it's the opposite of normal. It seems like we did spot zoning, said they could do this limited C3, and now we're like, okay, well, we're taking away the spot zoning as you'd like, but we're also taking away the zoning designation that you bought this property under, and it just seems completely backwards to me. So that's just my take on it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask Kelly a question?
Yep.
Or, Kelly, could you read, please, for the general public's edification, the difference between C, what's allowed in C3 and,
I have it in front of me, I can do it.
okay, that's fine.
So-
Thank you.
C3, items that are permitted according to Londonderry zoning ordinance use table. Assisted living facilities, multifamily dwellings, multifamily workforce, single-family dwellings, single-family workforce, two-family workforce, live-work units, nursing home and accessory uses, religious facilities, funeral homes, group child care centers, professional offices, a school, and that is it as of right. That's the bottom of this list.
A number of those do require conditional use permits, though.
Correct.
And a number of those you by law need to allow in any zone, like when you get to,
So,
Religious facility.
yeah.
correct. So from an AR1 standpoint, agriculture is permitted, assisted living is conditional use, backlot development's conditional use, multifamily workforce is conditional use, small workforce is conditional use, single family is obviously allowed, single-family workforce is conditional, dwelling two families permitted, dwelling two-family workforce is conditional, manufactured housing is permitted. What's up?
Permitted by right.
Yes, thank you. Manufactured housing workforce is conditional. Mobile homes are permitted. Pre-existing manufactured housing parks are permitted. Pre-site built housing is permitted. A cemetery, a public facility, a public utility, a recreational facility, and a religious facility are all permitted. Bed and breakfast is permitted. And that's the end of the list.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So is it fair for me to say then, and the reason why I asked the question, that if you rezone this from C3 to AR1, you're taking away some of the ways the land can be used? Potential ways for the owner to be able to use the land that is owned. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
And so the second thing I want to say is, I'm looking at what we're supposed to do tonight. I don't see anything that talks about the overlay. So, were we not asked by the town council to comment on that? Or is that going to be at a different time, or what? I don't understand what
So I
that's
believe-
all about.
Their actual motion, give me a second, I don't think it said the overlay in their actual motion. So, I guess it's up to this board if you want to consider it. I pointed it out in my memo because that's the current zoning. If you, what you choose to do with it with respect to the recommendation is ultimately up to you, but I note it because it's part of the current zoning.
Okay, thank you. So as one person, I'm not comfortable making this change, and I only see one motion in front of me, which says, do we want to have an opinion to move this from commercial 3 to AR1? And I'm not comfortable making that change.
Jeff?
Yeah, so this is where I stand here. We were asked by the town council to provide the recommendation. We've gone through multiple discussions on it, had the public hearing today. My understanding is on the 15th, the town council will be entertaining this at their meeting. So to move us along, I'm just gonna make the motion.
Well, wait a second,
Folks
we
can
haven't had,
second it, and we can have a discussion on it.
We can still discuss. If
Okay.
he's making a
Thank you.
motion, we can still
Thank you.
discuss.
Move to recommend to the town council the approval of the rezoning request to rezone to Litchfield Road, map 12, lot 068, owned by CC Properties LLC from commercial 3C3 to agricultural residential A1.
I have a motion from Jeff. Do I have a second?
AR1, please.
With a correction of AR1, not A1.
I said AR1. I have my Boston accent.
It's all right. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ann. Discussion.
So I'd like to say a couple things before we vote on it. Number one is, there was some discussion at the last meeting where we addressed this, where the meeting hadn't been properly noticed. And staff went through and did an investigation and gave us evidence that all the proper notifications had been provided to the property owner, and that the meeting had followed all the necessary guidelines for being noticed. Number two is, I have a little bit of a contrary view on this. I know the town council voted to remove the easement, and I kind of tied that together with the removal of the easement was going hand in hand with the zoning change to AR1. I know the record doesn't read that way, but that was how I walked away from that meeting when I was listening to it.
I would agree with you. Giovanni.
All right, I think I've never seen it where the town wants to change a property owner's zoning without the property owner requesting it. That may be the case, that we said, okay, let's take off our historic district zoning, and then the town council said, well, if you're gonna take this away, that was the only reason why we approved it for C3, is because that constricted it in some manner, which I don't know what that manner is. But I think it's wrong, and I won't, my one vote will not be supporting changing it from C3 to AR1. However, it seems like the property owner should be involved in this discussion at some point. Like, if you had the option to keep it C3 with the historic district over it, is that better than having it changed to AR1? Because changing it to AR1, removing the historic district overlay would affect our decision to change it to AR1. And I'm not sure that they were ever asked. Or maybe they were. I don't know. But it seems like Laura lays out a good point. I mean, there's a church 2 doors down. Then you go up, there's a cemetery. Then you go up 2 doors from that, there's a junkyard. You go back from the church, there's a gas station. You go up from that, there's a convenience store, and then a nursery, and then the public, all the schools, and a funeral home. And it's like, I can't see the motivation to take this one property and say, well, we need to have consistent zoning, unless we're going to go across the board and say, hey, let's write the record for the entire 128, Route 128. I don't know, there's something wrong with this that I think it needs more diligence, needs more involvement by the landowner, the property owner, to work out a solution that is okay with them and the town. And I will agree with John when he said it too. If he just wants to, if he got into a bad investment and he wanted his easiest way out, he probably should rezone to AR1, because that would be the way the property sells quickest. Because a C3 zoning is a very restrictive zoning. There's very few uses you can do with that zone. So I think it complicates his ability, but I don't know. I can't speak for the landowner.
Mr. D?
Yeah, so having owned the first piece of C3 zone in the town of Londonderry, the first lot that was zoned C3, and then got sued for putting up the building that I put up, we worked it out. The C3 zone is very restrictive. However, the other side of the coin is, if I owned it, going back to AR1, I would consider it a public taking and would want reimbursement for that, because it does restrict a higher use, one person's opinion, for the land. I would develop it and make more money knowing what I know about C3 than if it was AR1, especially with the configuration of that lot. So, yeah, so that's.
I do want to provide a little clarification on there, before we make any, we're in discussion here, so I do want to clarify a little bit of what we discussed. I've heard a lot about, you know, the lawnmower place, the churches, Max Apples, Shady Hill, all these, the schools, all that. That is all zoned AR1. It's, well, it may be being used commercially, it is zoned AR1. So from a, you know, when I look at Route 28 to Mammoth Road, Nashua Road, excuse me, 102, 28 to 102, really do only see two pieces of spot zoned land. Though that may not be how they're being used, there really is theoretically only two. Shasta and this. Those are the only two true commercial zones inside of everything we just talked about is agricultural. I just want that clarification. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I just want the clarification.
Technically, you're right, but the nature of the use is,
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying. It's not that I disagree with you.
So
I just want
I
to be.
agree with you.
Yeah, I just want to be clear that everything we have discussed is zoned AR1.
But to be clear, some of the things that are happening on those lots predated zoning.
Correct.
So.
Correct.
so
I agree. I
And
totally
some-
agree.
Let's put it all on the table.
Some can't be restricted by zoning.
Correct.
Like
Some
churches,
cannot be,
yeah.
and some
Correct.
cannot be restricted. But
I
you also have,
totally-
you also have a towing company
Yeah.
almost across the
Yeah.
street too.
No,
So
I totally agree.
Yeah,
All I'm
so-
saying is when you look at a paper, there's two not AR zone,
Yeah.
zone one thing, AR1 zone things here.
Yeah.
So, we are in discussion. Does anybody have anything before we make a motion?
Can I just
Or we have a
confirm
motion second
a
before we
question
vote.
that you asked me
Yeah.
about the council motion? So I pulled it up just to make sure I was correct when I said that their motion did not include the historic overlay. Good. And then one other point, I technically gave you two options because I'm not weighing in as to staff recommendation on this. I gave you the motion to recommend and then the alternative to deny should you choose to.
We do have a motion to recommend. We do have a second. That is what we would be working on right now.
And are we going to only be voting on the motion to change the zoning from C3 to AR1 and not the historic district designation? We weren't asked to do that. so
We weren't asked to do, the way I see it, though I feel as though they go hand in hand, we weren't asked to talk about the historic,
I believe you're correct, Mr. Chair.
yeah, easement, what, zoning, whatever the hell it is
Overlay.
at this point.
Overlay.
Overlay, thank you. So, we have a motion, you have,
I was
Yep.
just gonna say, just for the record, I'll be voting against it, for what was
you're
discussed.
gonna have a record in 2 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
people were talking about it.
We
so.
have a motion, Jeff, your motion was to approve, correct, or recommend, excuse me, recommend to the council.
Recommend to the town council.
I have a motion, I had a second
I
by,
didn't hear what you said.
his motion was to recommend town council approval of the rezoning request, of which Ann seconded it for the record. And then all in favor, starting with Ann, please.
And Champa, aye.
Giovanni Peroni, nay, and I don't know if I need to state a reason, but it's because I think that we should have gotten the landowner's input on it, and I don't see there to be, I honestly don't know why we're going out and doing this right now, so.
Mr. D?
Tony DeFrancesco, nay.
Lynn Wiles, aye.
I said nay, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. How come he didn't have to give a reason?
Because you volunteered it.
Oh, I thought we had to.
This motion does fail.
We do need to make
We
another
do need to
motion.
make a,
Correct.
another motion.
Correct.
And provide recommendations to
Correct.
council of what we would, why we felt it. as a-
Correct.
As a board, so.
Correct.
Nay,
State your name, please.
Jeff Penta.
Thank you.
Jason Knight's nay.
And the chair votes in the negative, so that motion fails 2 to 5 to 0.
I don't mean to screw things up, but he motioned for it. Can he now say nay? I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So we have a motion that failed. We do need to provide a motion to the council. Jeff?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, to
Yes, sir.
not recommend to the town council the approval of the rezoning request to rezone 2 Litchfield Road, map 12, lot 068, owned by CC Properties LLC from commercial 3C3 to agriculture residential AR1.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, starting with Ann, please.
Okay, this is to not vote.
This is a motion to recommend a denial of the rezoning request.
Leaves it the way it is.
So it doesn't change the zoning.
Yeah.
So the motion is to recommend that it remain as is.
Okay. Ann Champa, nay.
Giovanni Veroni, aye.
Tony DeFrancesco, aye.
Lynn Wiles, nay.
Hold on. Tony, Lynn,
Nay.
aye. Jeff?
Jeff Penta, aye.
Jason Knights, aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. The motion passes 6-1-0.
I don't think that's true.
6-2.
6-2.
I think Lynn was nay.
2.
That was a nay.
Yeah.
Oh, you said nay? I'm sorry.
Lynn and Ann.
6-2-0. Fantastic.
So, wait, sorry.
1,
5,
2,
2, 0.
3,
Thank
5, 5.
Out to lunch today.
5-2.
Out to lunch
So
today.
just one more, just so that I.
So the
make sure I got
motion
it.
passes 5-2-0.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see here. Yes, somebody had a question over there? Did I hear an aye? No?
You only appointed Tony, right? Isn't there another?
Correct. You only have, you have 7,
I can't, so they're all officios. I can't
Oh, I
appoint for an
gotcha, I
officio. Yeah. Or anybody appointed by the council, being Giovanni,
you're
the
7
town
voting right
council,
now.
and John Cruz. What?
You're 7 voting right now.
Yes, correct. All right. New plans, public hearing pursuant to RSA 674-4 and RSA 675-6 to consider adoption, vision, land use, regional contacts, demographics, and housing chapters of the comprehensive master plan. Let me pull it up, and Kelly, I'll let you get started.
Yep, just give me a second. So, all right. Okay. So this board will recall that you've been updating your comprehensive master plan now for over a year. Tonight's hearing is focused on the first 5 chapters.
Sorry, guys.
And my suggestion is that the board hold this hearing as an opportunity to receive more formalized public comment on, again, just the first 5 chapters, that being the vision, the demographics, regional context, land use and housing. And then you consider formal adoption of the plan in its entirety in the spring, when hopefully we are at a completion date for the plan in its entirety. So I prepared just a really brief overview of the chapters. And I should note as well that you have seen these chapters and commented on them extensively multiple times. Most recently was in August. And so this draft that you have is inclusive of those comments. And the steering committee has voted to adopt them as written as well. So with that, I can proceed through this if you want. So just as a reminder as to why we're doing this master plan update in the first instance, there's a statutory requirement that we have a master plan, or at least 2 chapters. It's setting the long-term vision and priorities for land use regulation in the town. So it's one of the tools that helps particularly this board, with respect to regulatory updates in both our site plan, subdivision, and zoning ordinances. And then it's an opportunity to reflect where the community stands on such issues.
Let's see if this is-
So, in terms of the recent timeline,
Things have been sitting in front of me, I'm
are
starving.
you gonna share those, or? Which-
I have some
There's
ways.
the-
Anybody in the
I
public
have to
want
keep
cookies?
talking. While the
Do
public
we-
hears.
We don't know where they came from still?
I'm good, I'll wait.
No, they were here when I got here.
So with respect to the most recent timeline of events here, so like I said, this board saw these chapters back in August. You reviewed them, provided comment, and they're updated to reflect that. In September is when the steering committee and staff and the RBC had some realignment and workflow adjustments to make sure we stay on track with the overall update. The steering committee held a couple of, sorry, I skipped one. The steering committee then met again in October to formalize that timeline, again with the target end date of February 2026. In November, we conducted 2 significant community engagement sessions, which were well attended. And now we're at this hearing stage with this board. Steering committee meets again next week to further discuss the 4 chapters that we're working on now. In January, we're targeting the final review of those last 4 chapters at the steering committee level. And then in February, like I say, we're trying to target a formal hearing at this board for the plan in its entirety. So like I say, the purpose of tonight is to allow the board to receive some more formal feedback with respect to the first 5 chapters. And it again aligns with the statutory expectations for this board considering adoption of said chapters and plan overall. So in this slide, I've provided the vision statement, which again, the committee and this board have vetted and recommended that it remain as written. And the other items listed up there are the guiding principles that this board and the committee agreed upon. Demographics chapter, so really the intent here is to demonstrate where we fall on more of a statistics and data basis. So talking about our population, how that's changed or hasn't changed, median age, total households, how those households are made up, and just providing some data, if you will, for some additional context about Londonderry. Regional context, so same idea, they're similar to the demographics, where just looking at the town on a regional level, how we compare or don't compare from growth standpoint, employment standpoint, things of that nature.
Could I interrupt you at some point?
Absolutely.
So it's interesting, the demographics, going back to that slide,
Yep.
it's completely in line with, I wouldn't say completely, but it's in line with national averages for housing. And so that means that if you want to affect it one way or the other, you have to do something over and above what everybody else is doing, right? So, but I figured I'd comment where it was
Yeah,
appropriate.
by all means,
Yeah.
interrupt. Land use. So again, I have here a quote direct from the chapter that talks about which land use issues should be focused on for town departments and boards. And the emphasis, there's significant emphasis on livable community, walkability, affordability and housing choice, open space, traffic safety, and then the items in color are the guiding principles that this board and this committee recommended be included in that chapter. Housing chapter. So, again, these are some of the data points that are included in the chapter. The committee and this board agreed on the guiding principles, or, sorry, I think they're referred to actually as housing strategies that should be included in this chapter. And next steps, like I say, we're currently working on natural resources, transportation, economic development, and historic and cultural resources chapters.
Can I go back to the previous one, please?
Yeah.
Housing chapter.
Yes, sir.
29% of households cost burdened. What does that mean?
So exceeding the 30% of your household income.
Thank you.
Good on that?
How would somebody know that?
Calculate your household income and what you're spending on your rent or mortgage and your utilities, et
Was
cetera.
this census data?
Census data,
Yeah.
IRS.
Or how did I get to this? How did we get to this number?
Yeah.
Not the household income number?
No, the 29% of
Yeah, that's
households. How do we know-
census and state data.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, Tony, I think you know the answer to that.
It was on the dark web.
Even I get cramps in my brain once in a
Yeah,
while.
I caught up.
Some people will say my brain is always cramped, but that's a different story.
So, yeah, so next steps, we're working on those, last four chapters. We're continuing to hold the steering committee sessions and, outreach. And then, like I say, planning to come back to this board early next year.
Wonderful. Before I start going to the board and to the public, I figure I'll start with Jeff, being the chair of the master plan committee. Have anything you want to say before we get to the board?
No, we've seen these, numbers, and, we've had the documents for a bit of time now. So again, looking forward to any public comments that are out there.
Wonderful. Board, we have anything before we go to the public? Fantastic. I will open up
I
our,
actually had some
sir.
thoughts, but I'd probably listen to the public first, yeah.
I will open up our public hearing. Anybody from the public have anything they'd like to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Mike Speltz, live at 18 Sugar Plum Lane here in Londonderry. I have two areas that I wanted to comment on, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so and to do it on the record. And the first one has to do with the vision statement and then the chapter on land use. Both of these comments are really based on something that appears on page 26 of the draft, which is a summary of the land use feedback that came from the working sessions and the surveys. And they they said that they are going to prioritize different land use strategies and find out how does the town look at those. And this is quoting directly from page 26. Preserving wooded areas and maintaining the town's rural character emerged as the most important priority by a significant margin. And in that spirit, the two things that I'm trying to suggest, and by the way, what I'm trying to do is make a very good plan a little bit better. In the vision statement, I've drafted an alternative, I guess, or an edit to that vision statement that tries to incorporate a little more strongly this prioritizing of preserving our natural heritage. And I've given the members of the steering committee a draft in Word format. So they have that, and they have a detailed rationale on it. And, you know, like, we can talk about that if you want, but I think at this point, I'm just trying to make the case on the record that there's a little bit of room for improvement in the vision statement. And underneath the vision statement, there is a set of guiding principles. The third one says, invest in cultural heritage, historical heritage, and community engagement for all ages and abilities, all of which is good, but given what I've just pointed out about the importance of our natural resources, I think that that should be inserted so that it will read, invest in cultural heritage, historical heritage, natural resources, and community engagement. So it's a small change, but I think a very important one. In the land use strategies section, and I'm looking now at page 28, it's the same words that I just recommend, or that I just read to you. Work to identify, preserve, and invest in historical, natural resources, and cultural properties. So again, I'm just trying to insert what I think is demonstrably the will of the people here to emphasize preserving our natural heritage. And then finally, just to explain why this is so important to think about in protecting our natural resources, I draw your attention to page 23, which is a table of the current land use by acres. And you'll see in it that about 14% of the town is open space and recreational space, and that includes the 13% that actually has legal protections on it, either town ownership or conservation easements. And then there's about 14%, almost 15%, that's just classified as vacant land. So if by some miracle we could turn all that vacant land and have not have any other of our open spaces developed, we would be somewhere around 28%, and that's as far as we could ever go, because we're built out at that point. 28% is probably not enough in terms of what biologists and ecologists would recommend if you want to preserve a ecosystem for the long run. The good news is there's probably a lot of natural areas that are in these other categories. If you go through a residential neighborhood and look at those 2 and 3 acre lots, you'll see a lot of trees. The power lines, I'm not sure where they fall in this table, but they're open spaces. So it's not quite as bleak as I've just painted it, but we are very much on the hairy edge of building ourselves into something that's very different from the environment that the people of this town say they want. So I'm hoping that the steering committee will take my revisions in heart and will work to make these small but important changes. Thank you for the opportunity to talk tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
Anything else from the public? Seeing none, I will close public comment. All right, board. Giovanni, I believe you had something.
Yeah, I kind of went into what Mr. Speltz was saying, that, if you wanted to have a balance to increasing open space and prioritizing natural resources, I think there should be a real concentration on what's known as like a conservation subdivision. And, our parcels are getting smaller. We kind of went through that with the PUD, and I think you should really focus on anything that's 10 acres or more, and really prioritize the ability to preserve most of that land while allowing for residential development. So I think in our current conservation subdivision regulations, 40% of the gross tract area should be left as open space, but I need to confirm that. So if you were to do something, just like we've been talking about inclusionary housing, or AKA affordable housing, and we were talking about bonuses given if we were to build inclusionary housing, which incents a developer or a landowner to go down that path. You could do something with where there's that balance between a suitable development that strikes both, it hits both points. You know, you can develop something where you say, hey, if we could do 50% of that land left into, prioritize it towards natural resources, or 60% of that land, but you gave the developer a bonus to be able to build on the areas that it made sense to build, then you would see that. And you wouldn't have to buy town-owned land, the taxpayers wouldn't have to fund it. You would have it, because for many, many years, our subdivision regulations went in the opposite direction. We said limit growth and create urban sprawl. That's what we have today. So what we're saying is, let's look at it a completely different way and look at it from where you're accomplishing both natural preservation and accommodating for affordable housing in the same process. So you could, we went through this with the PUD the other day. It's like, what are the things you would prioritize to get these density bonuses? You'd prioritize the floodplains, the wetlands, the slopes above 25%, important habitat areas for endangered species. So if somebody could come in and say, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to preserve all these areas, but give me relief on density or other items, you know, and you encourage a developer, because without the ability for a developer to go down a different path, they're not going to go down that path. So we're going to sit here and fight about it all the time, right? So you identify, you prioritize the natural resources that you want to preserve, and I think that is in here. And you provide a vehicle for a developer to develop smartly. But on the other side of the fence, there needs to be regulations and modifications to our current subdivision or site planning regulations, where it says, you know, right now there's a minimum lot size. So you're going to have to allow, you know, and if you have public water and sewer, you could allow for reducing that minimum lot size even further to accommodate the development where it's most appropriate to be, and then leave the rest of it in conservation. You'd obviously have to break down your setback requirements, your side yard setback requirements, things to that nature. You'd have to eliminate your traditional bonus restrictions. Right now we have, if you wanted to develop something in the conservation, under the conservation subdivision or what have you, if you're building a 4-bedroom home, it takes away from that. So you got to eliminate that component of it. There's probably a lot of things you really need. You have to eliminate your standard street sizes. We had a lot of conversation about that the other day, but you may have to eliminate curbing, things to that nature. But you know, so it's a challenge. Like, okay, you want to get somebody to develop in this fashion that it hits all the different points, inspire somebody to do it that way, and then the town needs to be able to have the right guidelines. Because you'll hear John, this is like, well, this was in the subdivision regulations, this is a site plan, you guys wrote them, I'm just enforcing them.
You sound just like him.
Yeah. So you'd have to work it from both sides if you really wanted to accomplish what, when I read through the plan. So it's very creative, maybe way too out there, but if you wanted to accomplish everything you want to accomplish that I read into this plan,
So, Jack,
this is how you do it.
it's
I
probably
really hope John watches this meeting so he can see that impersonation. I think he'll be impressed.
important to also kind
I
of
think he'd be
recognize
impressed.
that, this is a plan, but it's, there's the second part of the implementation steps that needed. And I think what you were just talking about has to be part of that. And part of those implementation, those are the tangible items that will change Londonderry. This is the guiding document that's going to have us, provide us with the regulatory, the regulatory statute to make those changes and for that implementation. So that's the reason why you're not seeing tangible aspects in this plan.
No, but I spent a lot of time reading through it, and I said, okay, you want to hit every point? You want a real solution for it outside of saying, no more development, growth moratoriums, or what have you, which is, landowners has the right to do what they need, what they can do with their land. Or do you want to work in harmony with both points and say, let's inspire you to develop in the fashion which the town wants. And so, I just did some additional work, and I was just like, this would hit all the points that we're trying to accomplish.
And I think, that is the rewind to a couple years ago. That's why, in particular, I've beat the drum of the master plan, because we need to update the master plan so that way we can identify how we can change some regulations to begin to work in a more appropriate fashion that does hit on everything we're trying to do here. That really is that step 2.
And I think that's why I stopped Kelly and I said, all the demographics and all the problems we have here and everything else, it's the norm.
Yep.
It's the norm. So we're just on par with everybody else.
It's the norm, but we are on the extreme edge of the norm in New Hampshire. We're the second oldest state in the country. We don't do an awful lot to hold young people in here.
That's true.
So, in fact, you could argue that a lot of our laws are designed, I don't want to say designed, but the unintentional consequence is we drive
It's
people
the graying
out.
of
Right.
New Hampshire.
We
right,
drive
yeah.
young people out
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
state.
yeah.
So, yeah, there is a trend to that, but Concord exacerbates it, and a lot of the towns do as well. By
Jason, I was focusing on average age, average, income to
Gotcha,
debt
okay,
load, things like that. You are right on the graying of New Hampshire. It's been that way for a while. Which
and we don't seem to be
causes
doing
those-
anything
yeah.
to alleviate that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
We're going to try like hell.
All for it. My kids
You'll
are
be
in their
great
20s.
when it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So to Jason's point, part of the problem is a lot of the people up in Concord have my color hair, and so they're making rules to help themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's. I'm
You
just-
basically
I'm
have
just
to
saying
be
how it is.
retired to be a
just saying how it is.
representative. Yeah.
So I agree with everything that Giovanni's saying. To Jeff's point, the master plan allows us to make the changes to our regulations to what Giovanni's saying because of the things that are in the master plan. So the two of them are gonna work together. Step 1 is get the master plan. Then step 2 is, well, okay, because of what's in the master plan, we need to change this regulation, and they all work together. Life is good, we sing around in a circle, sing Kumbaya. You don't have to do that part.
If the master plan gets the entire town to sing Kumbaya, it's a success.
Well, it's only after part 2 does everybody sing.
I think that, at least the people that I talked to and some of the people that stepped up here, the bottom line is I think people want us to stop. And they don't realize that we can't just stop. People own this land, people have rights to this land, and that's what one of the things that amazed me when I joined this board. Like, sure, we can have some control, but at the end of the day, somebody owns a piece of land, someone's gonna build on it. So unless we gobble up the land or do something else creatively, like John was talking about, things are going to continue to be developed, and it's hard to explain that to people, because they're like, well, you guys control it. Well, we don't.
We don't.
No, we don't.
No, and somebody said, somebody smarter than me on this board one time used the example of, how would you like it if someone took your 401k away and said, okay, all the money you had invested in your 401k is now zero? And that's the same thing that happens if you tell somebody who might have bought a piece of land 50 years ago to be their retirement later on. They had plans on selling it. Well, all of a sudden now you can't, because we've stripped away all the rights. And so I think that's an important distinction that needs to get out on social media to the keyboard warriors, to understand that this raw piece of land that you see on a one-dimensional piece of paper has a human behind it that is the owner of the property. Now, it has to be regulated still, right? You can't just go get all willy-nilly, then you have anarchy. That's where we have the rules and regulations. But there's a human quality to the people that own the land, and they're not all developers. Many of them are just longtime Londonderry residents that own some land and using it as a retirement project or what have you. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else from the board? All right, seeing none.
Do we need a motion to continue?
Do you want to open it up to the public at all? Did I already do
Did.
that?
Jerry
I already
did
that.
that.
I already did that. No, I already did that.
I don't
Ah.
need any formal action from you.
Yeah, we
because-
don't need to do anything. We just kind of keep going, right?
I didn't want to give you credit.
Wonderful.
I love the timeline, Kelly.
Yep.
Love
Thank you.
Yeah, watch it.
You can credit yourself, I didn't come up with it.
All right.
Give you enough credit tonight.
Oh, that cookie's giving me heartburn. Other business, heritage discussion.
You didn't have to have 5.
I had 2. I had 2.
There was an extra.
And he's
box.
hoarding them to himself up there, too.
He's hiding them behind that.
Hey. No, because then I'll keep
Kelly
eating them.
wanted some.
I have to talk more, so I'll wait.
All right. Miss Karen, the floor is yours.
All right, so as you're well aware, we had a work session on November 18th where we had an initial discussion about the heritage role. We walked through some of the applicable statutory language as well as local regulatory language with respect to heritage role. The result of those discussions was that the board wanted staff to update the DRC comment sheet, that being the design review committee comment sheet that the Heritage Commission uses when they are looking at applications in their advisory capacity. And so before you is the draft attempt of doing what you asked. So what I did is I essentially took some of what you suggested as far as what you believe the applicant should be providing when they are going to the Heritage Commission in terms of materials. And then the second part is specific questions for the Heritage Commission to ask the applicants. And you'll notice that I'm quite specific in here about regulation and pages of our lookbook as it relates to the basis of the question. I did this because we've had a lot of conversation about what folks should or shouldn't be asking, and this is, in my opinion, the cleanest manner in which to develop questions that are appropriate and that are of a regulatory base, if you will. So I'm assuming you guys have had the opportunity to read through it.
Are you gonna do the slideshow?
I did that last time.
Did? Did I like it?
You loved it. You said it was
Great.
amazing.
All right.
Lynn suggested it. It was a whole thing.
Oh, I
can't
remember
believe
that
you
now.
forgot.
Sorry, I'm having a
We're
bad night.
speechless about it, actually.
You were crying, a little tear came down.
Sorry.
So
Having a
what
bad
I'm,
night.
what I'm looking for from you guys is, or this board is, obviously some feedback on the questions themselves. Does it need to be pared down? Is this too little, too much? Any suggestions in that respect? And then the second half of our conversation would be further discussion and confirmation for the planning department as far as how this is gonna work in practice, meaning, there was some discussion last time about the planning board chair and/or their designee providing some direction as to what applications go to Heritage, what don't, and things of that nature, so, open it up to you.
All right. I'll start with the board. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Not a problem.
So, on one of the, they're not numbered, but one of the ending pages, Section 4, summary recommendation. It's checkboxes. Recommend the planning board consider the design as presented. Recommend revisions as noted. Recommend submittal with additional materials. No comment. So, part of the problem that we have is that the board recommends, the Heritage Commission recommends things on an advisory basis to the applicant. The applicant makes the changes. It then subsequently comes to us 6, sometimes 7 weeks later, sometimes only 2 or 3, depending on timing. And we don't know what the original looked like, because the applicant has made the changes, even though the comments from the Heritage Commission are advisory only. And it's clear to me, between the RSAs and our town regulations, that the planning board are the decision makers on what's to be changed and what's not to be changed. And so, I've been thinking about it, and I don't quite know how to fix that part of it.
Why couldn't it work like the town council recommendations, saying that the Heritage Commission, the Heritage Commission recommends X, Y, Z, and then we can talk about that. That's how the town council sends things to us.
I mean, I think ultimately, you know,
I agree with you, but what's happening is the applicant is sitting in the room just like this with the Heritage Commission, and the Heritage Commission is saying, we want you to put in a swing set. And the applicant is saying, well, I better do that then, because they're gonna recommend that to the planning board, and the planning board is probably gonna say, okay. But when it comes to us, we might say, no, we don't want you to put a swing set there. I'm using that as a stupid example,
Right.
but just to make it real obvious what the problem is. So how do we get it to the point where the advisory part of that commission is only advisory, and the decision makers are the planning board, because that's what the RSAs and our town regulations say it should be?
I think the only way to get to that is that it kind of becomes a one-way conversation as opposed to a back and forth, you know? The Heritage Commission should have the input that is then given to the board, and obviously it's given to the applicant, but it's up to the applicant whether they want to do as the Heritage Commission asked. I would say, you know, if I was an applicant, I would probably take the Heritage Commission's advice and make those edits, but I think that's where there needs to be less of a dialogue back and forth. There needs to be a presentation to the Heritage Commission. The Heritage Commission needs to, after the presentation, go down a list of questions like this, formulate an opinion, and from that opinion it's given to the applicant, it's given to staff as a design review comment, and it's done. It's not a we want you to come back. It's not a continue to discuss it. It's they've presented. This is our recommendation. Here we are.
So what about, as you mentioned, oh, I'm sorry.
No, no.
As you mentioned, they're still gonna probably incorporate it because they're not gonna wanna come here and then have us take a risk at having us say, well, the Heritage Commission said you should do this, why didn't you do it, right? What about looking at it from like a priority level, where these certain things are priority one that the developers should probably consider? Priority two is more of a, less likely to be, I don't know, but something where the developer can come in armed with what the feedback is from the Heritage Commission, but does not necessarily have to spend money.
Well, it's up to them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What if we put something in bold at the bottom? Do not make any changes to the plan based upon this recommendation until after the planning board.
No.
No?
Can't do
Because then they're gonna have to go
Because
back
it's
and
up-
then they're
it's
gonna
up
have
to
to
the
come back
applic-
here.
It's up to the applicant to react to the design review comment,
So-
Just as it is with the only difference is, and again, I've talked about this, the only way to really change this is if we had stricter architectural regulations and stuff, but it's no different than the town staff putting design review comments together, and it's up to the application to say, yes, we agree with this, or no, we want to submit a waiver to it.
So, could I just add a point? Because I think we've discussed this before, as far as when it comes to the actual comment sheets and the questions or the bullets that the commission is supposed to be focusing on, providing that, or this example, to the applicants in advance.
Correct.
I think if that's done, then they're already going to, let me back up. If the planning board is in agreement with these set questions, and this is provided to the applicant in advance of them going to Heritage, in theory,
They have a roadmap.
they should have the roadmap,
Yep.
and they should be well prepared, and their plan should already be in a position
Correct.
where there's very minor change, if any, happening.
Yep.
Go ahead, yeah, I just want to point that out.
Thank you, and I agree with that, and I really like, if you remember at the last meeting, I was very clear that it was our fault.
I agree.
that-
We haven't
that-
given them
That
direction.
the Heritage Commission wasn't given direction on what to do, more importantly, what not to do. That's our fault for not doing that, because technically, to say it in the most pedestrian way possible, they work for us. So it's our fault, we didn't give a concise plan. I really like the work that Kelly's done on this. I think it's very concise. I think it talks about exactly what, for both the developer and for the Heritage Commission, to be able to focus on these things, nothing more, nothing less. These things are what you're working on. And I like it a lot. And I particularly like where I believe that you took out on their original checklist item, it said something about naming streets.
Yeah,
And we now have a system for that the Heritage Commission doesn't weigh in on,
correct.
or should not weigh in on, because we have a system for that between the police and the fire and whoever.
It's planning, assessing, fire, building, and it's an addressing committee where
Right.
all of the legally required and safety and what have you is evaluated to ensure the street names are compliant,
Right,
essentially.
and 911 gets involved
With
in
the
that
911, yeah.
as well. So I'm glad to see that, but I think this is very comprehensive. I think it for me, it touches all the bullet points that I would want to know from the Heritage Commission, and to make sure that the applicant did that, so it accomplishes two things all in one form. Other than the timing of it, which I think it's a great start.
Could
And
I ask
maybe
another-
see how this works, and,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
So just while this is on the screen here, as far as the recommend, whatever they're checking off, the commission's checking off, the one about, resubmittal with additional materials, so this gets into the question of having applicants go back to Heritage again. Is this something that this board wants as an option being given? The only instance that I envision that is if they, for some reason, go to Heritage, which in theory this will not happen, but without the required checklist items. But again, that's highly unlikely because the planning staff are not going to schedule them for the meeting
Yeah.
if they don't have the materials. So shall I just take that off?
Yes.
Wasn't there something too where, I think we talked about it one of the times where it was tough getting them part of the DRC process based upon their schedule or something? Am I wrong on that?
Who's the applicant?
No, not the, yeah, the they is the Heritage Commission or a representative during the DRC process.
So I'm not sure I'm
Following me?
following you completely, but
There was a problem with.
So don't you
timing
have
and
a
scheduling.
design, isn't there a
Yeah.
design review committee and then
I
you
think
had
what
to
you're asking me
reschedule
is
it several
maybe
times?
twofold. So, one, the Heritage Commission meets bi-monthly, so it's challenging scheduling wise usually, or sometimes with applicants to coordinate that depending on timelines. I think the other part to what you're getting at is that in the regulations, when it talks about the design review committee, it says a representative of the Heritage Commission. It doesn't say the entire commission, so I don't know if you're talking about the ability to get one rep, or maybe I'm just not getting you.
Both,
Okay.
okay? One is their frequency of their meetings in coordination with getting a project approved. The second one is the ability to schedule that design review committee due to the availability of a representative from
So,
the Heritage Commission.
since I've been here, and I believe long before, the process has been, the applicants they're going to the commission as a whole. I've not seen where we've utilized one representative of the commission as part of the DRC. And then with respect to timing, 95% of the time, it works because staff is able to coordinate and because Heritage is really good about scheduling special meetings if they need
Okay.
to work with the applicants.
Yeah, I would just hate to see that delay a
Yeah, I've
project
never-
2 to 3
In my
months.
time,
or-
I've not seen an instance where the commission has been resistant to a special meeting to accommodate,
No,
so.
they're very accommodating.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? I'll let you come up, Sue, and then John, you can go.
Need my address? I forget.
Sure do.
Sue Jodry, 23 Peabody Road. So I've been on Heritage 13 years. And I want to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We're doing what we do. I thought we were responsible for road names. I've given a list to the fire department because cracking a log is not Londonderry. That makes me ill, the name of that road. So I did give like 12 road names, I guess, to the fire department because they came to us a while ago, quite a while ago, a couple years ago maybe, and said that you're responsible for road names. So I gave a list, about 12, 10 or 12. That's it? No questions?
Thank you.
Oh, that's it? Wow, I guess so. Let us do what we do. Yeah.
John Farrell, 4 Hancock. Does the Conservation Commission give you advisory opinions? And it pretty much ends there, right? So, back in the day, the Heritage Commission used to give an advisory opinion. And if the planning board felt that the applicant was not listening or needed to go back and revisit the Heritage Commission, the planning board would send them back. It wasn't a matter of that the applicant met with the Heritage Commission multiple times until they were satisfied. Just something to consider. Thank you.
Go ahead. So, John, that has happened a bunch of times. Unfortunately, that has happened a bunch of times where the applicant has been asked to go back. And that's one of the things that we're trying to fix. Can I answer Sue as well? So unfortunately, Sue, I'm sorry to disagree with you. I've known you for a long time, but it is broke. And if you read the summary statement by the former town management, it's obvious that it's broke. It's the guidelines of the New Hampshire RSAs, which is the law of the land, and the town regulations, which supplant the RSAs, completely are very contradictory to how your board has been working. And I have examples upon examples upon examples, and I know you watch the meetings because I've seen your keyboard stuff on social media. And you know, the fact is that there's a lot that goes on currently and has been going on in the Heritage Commission that's not right, and it's not fair to the applicants. It's not fair to ask things of an applicant from a heritage standpoint for something that they're not prepared to answer because they're at a heritage meeting. And we can talk offline after the meeting, and I'll give you all the examples, but I've also done it in public here at more than a half a dozen meetings, saying what happened at the last Heritage Commission meeting, to give examples to these board members to help them make an informed decision on what's next. Leave it the same, change it, change it, change it, change it, leave it the same, whatever. These folks need to have information to make informed decisions. And so that's all we're doing here. That's all. We're not trying to supplant anything. We're not trying to do anything more or less than the RSAs and the town regulations say. And that's very well annotated in the former town manager's summary report that I know you have a copy of, because there was several sent to every commission member. And I'll leave it there. But thank you for coming tonight.
I just want to say that I think the Heritage Commission is a very important piece of the town, and I feel very good once something comes from the Heritage Commission that they've seen it, that you've seen it and you've made your opinions, and I think that it's very important. So I don't want to lose that in sight of it. I think that just what the point is over the years it's kind of morphed into something different, and the builders get all excited and they make all these changes, and we're like, well, why'd you do that? Like, well, Heritage suggested it, and it's like, well, you didn't need to do that because it affects the drainage or affects another piece that you're not looking at. So I think that, you know, but again, I thank you for your service, and I just want to point out that the Heritage Commission is a very important part of the process, and I thank you for all your work you've done.
Wonderful. Anything else from the board?
Yeah, I echo Ryan's sentiments there, and I do like Kelly's proposed document that's on screen right now. I think that actually clears things up for, it's my opinion, the planning board, the applicant, and even the Heritage Commission. The one point I would like to make, though, is that the lookbook hasn't been updated since 2005.
You're taking it right out of my mouth.
And I would actually propose that potentially we ask the Heritage Commission to provide a draft for us for adoption.
Didn't we start that?
That's
a while
well
ago?
played right there, Jeff.
Yeah.
That's well played. Can you put up the lookbook?
No, we're not getting into that.
Okay.
So,
I just want to say it.
we did start, and I gave a very in-depth presentation of an updated lookbook, of which has kind of gone by the wayside. I think that we need to provide the direction to the Heritage Commission that the lookbook needs to be their #1 priority, and an update to the lookbook is crucial to ensure that comments and recommendations are coming based off of what is in the lookbook. So, you know, I think it would be appropriate for us as a board to give the Heritage Commission the guidance that, you know, we would like to see an updated lookbook within a certain amount of time.
Is that something we would need to approve?
Yeah.
Would that be? would-
It's not really
It's a
an
guidance
approval,
document.
it's a, hey, this
It's not a
looks good.
regulatory document, but I would suggest exactly
Reviewing
how
it.
you proposed it and
Yeah.
that they are drafting it and you are
I remember
Liking it.
I remember you
Agreeing
gave
with
us
it.
homework assignment on it, to send you pictures of.
We
different-
had a big old thing and
Yeah.
then, you know, just.
We all sent pictures in.
Yeah.
Something.
We had, there was a
something.
I have a phenomenal, don't have it anymore, but, or at least I can't find it, but I put what I thought was a very nice, could almost replace the lookbook presentation together.
I don't think we should be making that. I think it should be.
I agree.
It's
I agree.
them, you know what I mean? They're
Well, they-
familiar, right.
sorry.
Yep.
The process was done joint. We had many,
Yeah,
we had several
had-
joint meetings
yeah.
with
Yeah.
Heritage.
I remember that, yeah.
Just kinda nothing ever really happened with it.
That's why I think it's best to have the Heritage
Yeah.
propose it to us.
I agree.
And we adopt.
I agree.
We spoke of updating at the last meeting.
So if we could, we don't need a motion for that, but can
You
you have
don't, but I think what would be helpful is
a
if
timeline?
the board's good with you, Mr. Chair, drafting an email
Sure.
to the commission, copy staff, that way the directive is clear.
So I'm fine with that. You guys good with that?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Any comments on, we've had several conversations about what goes to Heritage and what doesn't go to Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing that, having that conversation tonight
Yeah,
as well?
I mean, I think I positioned it appropriately the other night. Was that last week? Was it last week we were talking about
month. 2
this?
weeks
Last
ago.
It
month?
was 2 weeks ago, yeah.
You know, I think it's appropriate that we start to have some decision making of, you know, what needs to go to the Heritage Commission and what does not need to go to the Heritage Commission, just to not be wasting anybody's time. So, you know, I propose that it comes based off of, you know, staff reaches out to the chair or an appointment of the board and say, hey, should this go to Heritage Commission or not? That way, you know, it's on the chair or the member of the board who gets appointed to say yes or no. Personally, I think it would be the chair, but that's up to all of us.
So like, for example, a warehouse by the airport probably wouldn't fall under that.
In
I think
my
that was the
mind,
example
Yeah.
you gave, yeah.
in my mind, it just, you know, it's not.
It's gonna be ugly no matter what.
It's a warehouse on Pettingill Road, like, or not Pettingill, but whatever you call it, thing there. Might be Pettingill.
Pettingill
It's
Road.
Pettingill, yeah. You know, it's just it's a warehouse. It's got 4 sides, and it is what it is. It's probably 30 feet tall, and
So how do we codify that or memorialize that?
So, if I could just ask for a little clarification. So
Sure.
my notes from the last meeting were what you just outlined, but also you noted that commercial property, multifamily, commercial development, multifamily development, and residential
subdivisions.
subdivisions with stone walls would all automatically go. So it wouldn't necessitate a decision per se from
Correct.
this board.
Correct.
But the industrial development would be where staff would
Where we would
communicate
have
with you or your
exactly,
designee about that, utilizing your discretion.
exactly.
I would recommend that route just because, as everyone is well aware, the volume of applications is not low. So
Yeah.
trying to logistically do that,
No, I'm fine. I mean, that to me is exactly how I envision it, and you know, give us the ability to say, yeah, let's send this building to this industrial building to the Heritage Commission, or no, this doesn't need to go there.
And I think it should be a quick decision. I think if
Yeah,
you, if
it's
you
not
hem
a-
and haw over it, it should go.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? If you look at it and you say no, then that's fine. But if you go, oh, it should go.
exactly.
and I think if I'm understanding you all correctly, when it comes to the industrial, it's pretty much like the exact location is what is dictating, right? Because not all the industrial development is way outside of town and
Correct.
whatnot. Some of it
Correct.
is in an area where it makes sense to have
Correct.
the questions that are outlined in this comment sheet asked.
Correct.
And then in some instances, it's not appropriate, so.
Correct.
not to throw a monkey wrench in this, but
Then shut up.
what if we,
Should we use the
what
same
if you
approach,
say,
Tony?
you say, no, it doesn't need to go to Heritage Commission, and you let them know that it doesn't, and if they still feel they need to see it, then they can, no, too much.
They're not
They're not,
put it
it's advisory.
bluntly, they're
Okay.
not
It's
decision
advisory.
makers.
All right.
And it's this board's regulation, and it's this board's process that is even allowing them to participate.
Correct.
Is the simplest way I can phrase it.
Okay.
Correct. Anything else from the board?
I
So
have
how-
more questions for you.
So are you gonna,
please,
are you
ask
gonna
away.
memorialize that somewhere in writing, or?
I
What do we
think
do?
that,
I think this is memorializing it.
Okay.
The DRC process already states that a representative from the planning board even is to participate in that. I think this, what we just talked about, is a way
don't
to
even get me
utilize
going
that.
on that.
But it's working to your benefit now, the way it's
Yeah.
So that reinforces what we
So
just
that
said.
reinforces it. Can I go with my questions?
Yo, please.
So as far as the checklist, this is the second part here is like is the, what I'm suggesting for the items that they bring. And just to point out, I'm trying to make it clear that this board is saying that they must bring these things to Heritage.
Yes, I think if they don't, they're not prepared and shouldn't be presenting.
Okay, so I just want to confirm that you're good with the way I have it written. And the items that I'm suggesting.
And by the same token, because of that reason, the applicant shouldn't be asked anything other than what is on this list, because they're not prepared to answer
Exactly.
anything. but
Correct.
what's-
And I think the feedback on, the items that I'm looking for feedback on primarily are the optional but helpful. So again, this kind of contradicts the above where it says you must bring it, so I'll have to
Yeah.
fix that. But this is what I hear from the commission a lot, is that they want samples and whatnot. So is this board, do you have an opinion on that? Do you?
Yeah, I
want
mean,
me
I think that the applicant should be able to provide a 3D perspective. It's 2025. If you can't provide a 3D perspective, you're just,
Yeah, but samples of like shingles and what does the siding look like? So many
I
of
don't
those
think
folks-
hard physical samples are necessarily required, but they should have, what are you using for shingles and be able to answer it.
Well,
Color renderings and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
I mean, a lot of times, what you see on the screen is different than real life.
That's true. Well, lots of times you can't get the samples before you're
Yeah.
you're in the construction phase.
Samples is tough.
But I think the 3D perspective is good.
Yeah, I think a 3D perspective and, a document stating what they're using is sufficient.
So I'll add to the
Like
site plan and
Derry Medical Center
Bullets, yeah.
came with 3D renderings and a list of what kind of brick they were using. And
yeah, I'm with you.
that's sufficient. Good?
Yep.
Anything else?
So I'll take off the last three bullets. If I'm hearing you right.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would just move architectural, I would move that bullet point, I'd get rid of optional but helpful
Yep.
altogether. Architectural renderings, 3D perspective, or massing models.
Yep.
No? I do feel as though if we are making this stuff a requirement and they don't come with it, it is within the Heritage Commission's purview to say, you need to come back. We're
Yeah,
giving them a list of things they need to
But what-
provide.
Well, I simply will not send them.
She won't,
say
she
you're not
won't
ready.
send them if they haven't met all
That's
the
fair.
other requirements.
That's fair. Yeah, you're not ready yet, sorry.
Yes.
And this is dual purpose, right? It's giving
You
staff
guys guidance, yeah.
some guidance and
Yep.
a tool to use to point to, and it's giving the commission the same.
Yep.
And the good thing about that is you don't want to waste the time of the commission either, but more importantly, you don't want to take up a slot because they don't meet every month.
Correct.
And so for an applicant to take up a spot and not be prepared, and then the Heritage say,
unprofessional.
sorry, you got to come back, that took someone else's spot away that could have had it. So
Correct.
In general, it's not fair. So to have Kelly's office make sure that they're prepared before they even get to Heritage, that's gonna help Heritage out a lot as well.
So can I make an attempt to recap this whole
Yep.
thing? So what will happen, based on this discussion, is planning department's gonna receive a design review application. If it is an industrial site, I will have the planning department contact the chair by email,
Yeah, that's fine.
and you can respond accordingly with yay or nay, goes to Heritage. If it's any other, if it falls into the other categories that we highlighted, commercial, multifamily, res with stone wall, it's going automatic. Once the decision is made as far as if it's going to Heritage, we will work on scheduling with the applicant and providing the applicant with this sheet, comment sheet as well, so that they have plenty of time to work through these things before the meeting.
Hey, I don't know if it makes sense, but in those lists of what goes and what doesn't go, should you include in there like simple subdivisions or lot line adjustments
You
or
always
things?
steal my stuff.
That was, I mean, I believe that's now
That's why I
falling
don't
on
let you
the,
talk first.
the only way it goes now is if there's a wall on it, right?
Correct, so those would be residential examples
Correct.
where staff would, we review this anyway, but we would say, yes, this has a stone wall, because there's specific regulation that talks about that, and it would go to the commission.
But most land has a stone wall on it, so if you're just subdividing off a piece of raw land, it's gonna have a stone wall somewhere, more than likely. But there's no construction on it.
So if it's, you're saying like a recent one where there
Yeah.
was like 34 page where they didn't
Yeah.
have any, it
Yeah.
wasn't, there was no proposed structures.
Right.
In my mind, that wouldn't need to go.
Yeah, I would agree.
But when you're getting into like the Hardy Road subdivision where there was significant comment, and I think it was appropriate about the stone walls.
Yeah.
100%.
That,
Yes.
because it was clear that was going to be built.
Well, that was, it's two toy, it's apples and oranges. You have something
Yeah.
that's just getting subdivided, and then
Right.
you have something that is, actually being built, you know? Actually, a good commercial or industrial example of that is, the subdivision for New Balance, because they subdivided out that little corner of land, and I believe that
Yeah.
went to Heritage Commission, like,
Yes, it did.
why?
So you're
There's
good
no
with my
proposed anything on
interpretation
it.
of that?
What?
The stone wall,
Mm.
meaning if it's a two-lot subdivision with no proposed structures, it doesn't need to go.
I would agree.
If it's a full-blown residential subdivision, meaning
Yeah,
it's got
yeah, then it
proposed
needs to go.
houses, it needs
Yeah.
to go.
I agree.
And that's, I've been handling it recently that way, after this board made it clear that you wanted to try
Yeah.
and have some degree of organization to this process. So, if you're good with that, then.
Yep.
I mean, and I just want to point out too, so you have professional planning staff. We do this every day. So this, what we're talking about, using staff discretion about these things is not something new.
Yeah,
This
no.
is what
It's what you do every
we're
day.
paid to do. So I just want to make that clear, because while this change, it is a change to process and it is important, and some might view it as significant, most of this is done on a day-to-day basis when you're doing a plan review. So I just feel it's important to point that out. We're not doing something drastic from our day-to-day
I agree.
operation.
I agree.
And to that point, in a different way, when plans come here, we also do some of the things that Heritage Commission does.
Yeah.
And we comment on those things, and we talk about those things, and we make changes on those things. And just to refresh everybody from a couple of meetings ago, when we talked about Jason changing the facade of a building, even though the regulation said it's 100 feet before you have to have a break in the facade, it was 75 feet or whatever, and he changed and said, hey, break that up, every, 75 feet and move it back, 18 inches, 24 inches or whatever, just so that it's not just a straight line. And then at Woodmont, Ann made changes to windows and mullions and a couple of colors or whatever, and that's all heritage stuff, so.
It happens.
Even if it wasn't, even if things didn't go to heritage, I want the general public to understand, we can do that too. We have, this is a wide variety of talent on this board, for lack of a better term, and many of us have been here for a long time and can do colors and roof lines and all that other kind of stuff as well. So just because it doesn't go to heritage doesn't mean it's not getting done, or that we're tone deaf to that kind of thing, or we can't see it or whatever. Because there's a lot of good things here, and that's just two examples that I can remember right now that made a huge difference on projects that was after the Heritage Commission had seen it. So,
Correct.
It's good to have those two steps.
100%. I agree.
Because it's the
Can I
And I've said it.
Yeah.
I've said it 100 times too.
All right,
The
all
Heritage
right, all
Commission
right.
It's an important thing.
Just to close
To
the
wrap
loop
up,
on the
please.
whole process, start to
Yes.
finish. So they go to Heritage, Heritage fills out this sheet with their comments. They're sending that right now, as they already do, back to town staff.
Yep.
To include in our overall comments back to the applicant.
Correct. Correct.
Still good with that?
Yep.
Okay. And then they're going through their DRC process and
Yep.
ultimately ending here. The conversation tonight was if they choose to make changes, which in my view, the way this is laid out now, those should be minimal, if any. But if they choose to, that's on them, and then this board still has your typical opportunity to talk about it, talk
Yep.
about their renderings.
Yep.
So real quick question, just for clarification. That goes back to you, that filled out. Are they discussing it with the applicant at the time of the meeting, or is that
I-
something that just goes back to you?
So in my mind, they're walking through these questions with the applicant present. And or the
they're
applicant's,
saying, we'd like you to change this?
No, I'm seeing it as,
Well, that's what I want for
here's the
clarifications.
here's the questions, I just X the thing out, but, they have a question, they're not having a back and forth with the applicant, they're saying, do we agree with it, do we disagree with it, if we disagree with it, what do we want changed? That's memorialized into their design review comments, that from there become a design review comment. It's up to the applicant to, and again, any smart applicant is gonna do as the Heritage Commission asks, so that way when they get to the planning board, it's not a problem at the planning
They're
board.
not being asked
Exactly.
why it didn't happen.
I think these are all yes or no questions.
Correct.
So then they can say yes or no, and then when it comes down to their actual comments, if it's a no, I'm envisioning that's where they
Yeah, we would like to
Explain
see this
further.
as X, Y,
we
Z.
want to see, as it relates to question 4,
Yep,
this done.
correct.
That's
And
how
so-
I envision
And
it.
so, thank you. And so I would suggest some kind of a training session.
Yeah, so that was my next ask, I guess, or I had formulated a plan just now, but, so the Heritage meets next in January. They've already been discussing this matter. My thought was to utilize that meeting as a work session with them essentially on this. However, I guess my ask of you is you want me to send an email with this information this week summarizing this discussion and the expectation of the January meeting, or?
Yep, and I
Okay.
would say that I can review it with the committee at the January meeting.
Okay.
So you're gonna go to the January Heritage?
You are too.
I am.
You just got voluntold, buddy.
All right,
You'll be a full member by then.
I'll be there. If you want me there, I'll be there. So, Yeah, so I think, yeah, because this is a departure and a change, and I think if I was on that board, I would want the advantage of someone being able to have a conversation. Well, what do we do about this? What do we do about that?
Yep.
And I think it would be very helpful. It's basically an onboarding meeting, basically, in January, because I'm sure they have some new members as well, don't they? Or not, I don't know,
Yes.
but I think they do.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah,
should.
so it's a great a time for onboarding, which
That's a good
we don't,
point.
we don't really do, or haven't done in the past, so I think this is a great
So-
time to do it.
So then that means I'm not implementing this until after January. So in terms of if I get any new DRCs,
I would say until we have the ability to have the conversation with
yeah. So,
the committee, it's status quo.
because if I get new applications,
I'm sure you will.
I'm sure I will, I'm just gonna
I would-
schedule them as usual.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Anything else on this?
And Jake, you're sending an email to the Heritage leadership saying, hey, look at the
Yes.
workbook.
Yes. All right,
It's good. I like it.
good there.
Thank you, Kelly, for that work.
Before we wrap up, I know that Lynn would like to talk for a couple minutes. Before Lynn talks for a couple minutes, I would like to thank him very much. As we all know, Lynn is bowing out.
You're stealing my thunder.
Yep. And I just want to say thank you. So I'll leave it at that so I don't steal your thunder.
So I just want to say a couple of words. If you don't know, today is my last planning board meeting. And I've been in this role for 15 years, well, over two periods of time, but 15 years in total. Go back to the time when John was on the board way back in the OOs. I believe in term limits. I think it's time for me to move on. We've got some life-changing things happening, and I start writing down a list of what I want to accomplish and how many years I have to accomplish those, and they just don't add up. So it's just time to move on and have, I don't want to say I don't have fun on this, but it's time to have some fun doing some other things.
Have
So,
real fun?
yeah. You know, and just to talk about a couple of things, you know, I was involved in Woodmont way back when. I still support Woodmont, and I think it's a great project if they can ever make it happen. Understand times change, but I was, you know, in Woodmont, involved in Pettingill Road in the airport area and getting that area up and running the way it is today. One of the things that I take pride in is getting rid of the 55 and older communities. I think they drove a wrong demographic in this town, and I was happy to see that ordinance repealed a number of years ago. I was involved in the 2013 master plan, involved to a certain degree in the 2026 master plan. Jeff, you're doing a great job leading that, and I hope the planning board takes that document to heart and uses it in making your decisions going forward. There was a poll that came out a couple of days ago talking about New Hampshire being the #1 state in the country to raise a family. And I see polls, I like reading polls, and New Hampshire is consistently at the top of the ratings. I know people don't like change, but I think the visionaries in this state, people on planning boards, people up in Concord, I think have been doing a phenomenal job in guiding the state, and I just know in my heart that you folks will continue with that tradition. So it's been a pleasure working with you. If you ever have any questions, need any history, feel free to reach out to me, but I really enjoyed it, so thank you all.
Come on, stand up. Give me a hug, Lynn. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lynn. It's a loss for this board, and it's a loss for the town. So thank you for all your service.
There's a lot of good people.
It's a
out there.
well-deserved one, though.
Yes.
You've done your time.
I love my time.
All right, anybody have anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, folks.
Oh, you guys.